Hello, welcome to week 6 of your diabetes education program. You missed your Zoom class, and so you're listening to this recording so that you can be up to date when you start with week 7 with your group. My name is Connie Horton. I'm a diabetes educator and have done so for a little over 25 years and have had type 1 diabetes over 40 years. Today we are going to look at glucose and how your glucose checking is going. We're also going to look at problem solving using your records and talk about carbohydrate counting in a little more detail. How are you doing with your goals? Remember, any progress toward your goal is progress, and that's what we want to see. Today you're going to need your Type 2 Diabetes Basics book, My Food Plan handout, and the daily log that you filled out from this past week. How are you feeling about checking your glucose? Are your feelings changing over time? I hope it's getting easier for you to check your sugar and you see benefits from checking your glucose. We're going to repeat the steps we learned earlier to evaluate your blood sugars in a little while. And we're going to look at the number of times your blood sugars are above your goal range and within your goal range. Remember, our goal is to, over time, have at least half of our glucose readings in goal range. And hopefully the number in range is getting better with the goal of more in range than out of range. There are many things that you can evaluate when looking at the value that is out of range. These include what you put in your body, including different types of foods and portion sizes, restaurant or takeout meals, alcohol, medications, and your activity or what you do, such as your exercise activity, any type of stress that you're under, or illnesses. Other events or situations that can have effects on blood sugar are holidays, parties, vacations. All these things can have effect on our blood sugar level. When reviewing your glucose, how would you handle one value out of range versus a pattern of levels that are out of range? This picture is from a record book, not the daily log, which we'll be using later today. It's meant to show you how to look for patterns of high glucose. One value out of range might be a certain circumstance that caused the elevation, while a pattern is likely due to something done or not done every day. It can also mean there needs to be a change in your overall care plan. Review patterns with your medical team. In this example, the blood sugar is in range before the evening meal, but not after. So this person's blood sugars are higher after the meal and in the normal range before the meal. The patient may need more medication to prevent that from happening. The patient may need adjustment in the amount of carbohydrates they're eating, if they're eating too many carbohydrates at their evening meal. Let's look at a similar example on the next slide. John's glucose level is 120 before his evening meal, but 2 hours later his glucose is 241. What might be the cause? When the blood sugar is normal before a meal, but too high after eating a meal, then you really should focus on what you ate. Did you eat too many carbs? Did you eat portion sizes that were the wrong size? Did you eat a different type of food than your body is used to? All of these things are the type of things you want to look at. Also might be that if you normally exercise after your evening meal and don't exercise, then that may be a reason why that one was high. But if it's a pattern every day, something has to be changed. Now we're going to look at our pamphlet, My Food Plan. So if you can pull it out, that would be great. It goes along with your Eating for Better Health pamphlet, but it goes into more detail about carbohydrate grams. Let's look at the front cover. I like this front cover. It's full of color. You can see how colorful the plate is. You have protein with the chicken and chickpeas. You have healthy fat with your avocado and nuts. And you have healthy, colorful vegetables with cabbage and broccoli. There's a small amount of carbohydrates with the rice in the middle. If you're looking for more information on carbohydrate grams and serving sizes, then this is the pamphlet that is for you. Using the information inside, you can see which foods in each category have higher carbohydrate amounts compared to other foods in the same category. The higher the amount, the greater your glucose will increase. Remember, when you build your plate, you can have up to 3 items or 3 servings, when a serving equals 15 grams of carbohydrate, that can be included in your plate. So this would be equal to 45 grams of carbohydrate per meal. Let's look at some specific items. If you open your My Food Plan pamphlet, on the first page you will notice carbohydrate foods. So we're going to look at carbohydrates just a minute. We have pictured here a bagel. The bagel has more carbohydrate than a small hamburger bun. A 4 to 5 inch bagel says will have 48 to 67 grams of carb, where a bun, either hamburger or hot dog bun, is going to have 22 to 30 grams of carbs. A cup of rice is going to have 45 grams of carbs, and a cup of pasta is going to have 42 grams of carbs. If you look at a half a cup of mashed potatoes or acorn squash, and that's under potatoes, they're going to have about 15 grams of carb for half a cup. Take note, serving sizes are different. Like the rice and pasta are a cup, whereas the squash is half a cup. If you had a whole cup of the squash, then you're going to have 30 grams of carbs. If you only ate half a cup of rice, you're going to have more like 22 or 23 grams of carbs. So even though there's portion sizes listed, it doesn't have to be the exact amount that you actually eat. The next slide looks at fruit. Look at the difference between a large piece of fruit and a medium piece of fruit, as well as fruit juice. So if you're looking at a large apple, you could have as many as 27 to 31 grams of carbs. But if you're looking at a small apple, you're looking at if you're looking at a small apple, you're looking at 11 to 15 grams of carbs. Fruit juice should be about a half a cup in the serving size, which is 4 ounces. Most juice boxes are about 3/4 of a cup or more. A half a cup of fruit juice in its own juice with nothing added is about 11 to 16 grams of carbs per half a cup. What I'd like for you to do after class today is find a measuring cup and measure out 4 ounces or a half a cup of water. Pour that into the glass you normally drink out of. Many people are surprised to see how it looks in the glass compared to what they normally consume. Half a cup of fruit juice is not much and is not very filling, whereas a piece of fruit that has the same amount of carbs might be more filling. Let's look at snacks and sweets. If you open up the pamphlet one more section, you'll see snacks, sweets, and condiments listed in the middle. 10 to 15 chips, potato chips or tortilla chips, is going to have about 16 to 20 grams of carbs. 3 cups of popcorn, unbuttered, are going to have 14 to 20 grams of carbs. 1/4 cup of nuts is going to have 5 to 6 grams of carbs, like almonds. Really look at the serving size, especially between the chips and the popcorn. 10 to 15 chips is not very many chips compared to 3 cups of popcorn. Popcorn is probably going to be a little more filling too than your chips. But if you don't need many carbs, then maybe nuts would be a better choice, like your almonds or peanuts, to have 1/4 cup of them for 5 to 6 grams of carbs. Now let's look at the food label. The food label, if you open up all the way up the pamphlet and turn it over, you're going to see the food label. We're going to review food labels in more detail later at another session. But right now, let's just look at this food label. First thing we want to note is the servings per container. There are 2 servings per container on this food label. The serving size is 1 cup. So that means there are 2 cups in this container. Total carbohydrate is 27 grams. That means that 1 cup of whatever this is, I think it's some type of oatmeal or something, is going to have 27 grams of carb. If you ate 2 cups of it or ate the whole container of it, you're going to end up with 54 grams of carbs. My food plan resource should give you more information on carbohydrates and food choices. There's a section on foods that have little or no effect on glucose and a list of low or non-carbohydrate foods if you need more examples. These sections are back on the main part where we had it opened up initially. So, foods with little or no effect on glucose, these are things that have a little bit of carbohydrate but not enough that are going to affect your blood sugar much. Then also low or non-carbohydrate foods are going to be your vegetables and proteins and your fats. And those are listed there as well. There's also a section right past the list of foods where you can write down menus that you would like to try. After class, I'd like for you to write down some meals that you would like to try that have a total of 45 grams of carbohydrates each. Remember, if you're craving a food that's higher in carbohydrate, you don't have to eat the entire serving. So like initially on that bagel, if you ate 1 bagel, that would be pretty much all your carbs an entire meal. But if you wanted to have something with your bagel that was another carbohydrate source, you might eat half a bagel and have less carbohydrates that way. So if you're craving a food that's higher in carbohydrates, you do not have to eat the entire serving. Oftentimes, a smaller portion will even curb the craving that you're having. Let's look at your daily logs. During this exercise, family members, I would like for you to let the person with diabetes describe what they see before adding what you see. Let the person with diabetes decide what could be changed, and you can help brainstorm, especially about changes you can make together. In your class, you would normally go into your breakout rooms at this time to discuss this with your family members and with your educator. But since we can't do that now, I would just like you to spend some time with your family member and look at patterns in the blood glucose levels and look for times when the blood sugar level might have been elevated that's random, that's not normal. Family members, during this activity, I would like you to be in a supportive role, and the person with diabetes is in the lead role. In the future, this is the best approach to reviewing logs together, so it's good to practice today. Circle all the blood glucose levels that are in range versus out of range. How many are in range versus out of range? What are some reasons that they may be in range or out of range? And can you find any areas for improvement? Spend some time after class now looking at your logs and determining this. This is the end of week 6. Remember to get you a measuring cup out, a half-cup measuring cup, and measure some water into a glass that you normally drink out of. And also spend some time looking at your logs with your family member, and when you meet with your educator next time, they will actually sit down with you and look at your logs at the end of class. For next week, you'll be reviewing the goal and the family goal you set 4 weeks ago. Before class, complete pages 62 and 63 in your book. This goes over information about your goal. Look at recommendations on page 65. Write down your own recommendations for helping control your diabetes better. Bring your Diabetes Basics book next week and your goal setting. Thank you and have a great week.